co-coach for the USA team.
Dan, would you, this way, the pace early on in what Louisville did, what did you see out of them, and what turned it for you guys in your favor?
It's a good question. I answer both those. I thought their starting unit, even against our starting unit, was pretty competitive. What turns the tide a lot of times with us is our depth and just the reality of that many good players. And their pace, we were ready for it. There's some things you see on film and you tell the players over and over, but you almost got to experience their pressure a little bit. You almost got to experience their north-south abilities. Because, I look at that for 20 years. I've been looking at it at professional level, and they go at it. We had to talk to our players about how to keep the ball in front of us and different things, but our depth is really special. And not only here, but when you're talking about international competition, as much as the great players we have, the number of great players is the real story of USA basketball in a lot of ways.
What are some of the things you're going to take out of this as you go over now and go to the qualifiers?
Well, we don't practice a lot, and we actually had time here to practice. It was incredibly, incredibly valuable. We'll take that. But I also think, and I'm just going to tip my hat to Louisville and to the women's program. From the time we got off the plane, which was 9:30, on Thursday or something like that, the culture is in the community. Not just the culture they have, which is a very good one. It's in your community. People talk to us about it. I go to breakfast, and whoever's taking care of me is aware of the game and is aware of the team. That's great. I've been coming here since Denny Crum was a coach. I came here to learn basketball from Denny Crum when I was starting out as a high school coach and on the men's side. But the culture here is awfully healthy. And we have been in several pockets as we've done this collegiate tour of really healthy community cultures for women's basketball. I just hope more and more of those people find out what y'all did and bring it to their schools too, because it's a lot of fun to come in here. This is win-win. You have a general feeling that no matter who wins the game, we're getting better, they're getting better, and the people are in the stands are almost, I know they're for Louisville, but they kind of understand our mission too. So that's a special feeling. Doesn't happen a lot in sports.
Of your 6 college games, this has been by far the most lopsided. How much of that is a reflection of the players who were not available, maybe at Oregon and some of the other stops, and how much of it is just the maturation of this team as you get closer to the tournament in Serbia?
I think it's a maturation of the team, and I think it's also that we had 2 practice days. I cannot remember of any, and we've been playing where we've had 2 practice days in a row, and I think that was reflective in how we played and how our depth played, because we had a chance to practice the game with each other. Sometimes we're using games as an instrument to build chemistry, to build timing, but we had 2 days to build it here. And they were really good practices. So you take a team with the type of talent we have and you have really good practices, you're probably going to get a pretty good performance, and that's what we got.
As we get closer to Japan, what is that selection process like to trying to narrow down a final roster, and how important are these type of exhibition games for that?
Well, I think they're huge. I think they're huge. I think they're very important. But, in the scope of things, we coaches really don't, we don't select the players. There is a selection committee that selects the players. And they have a very, very hard job. Let's just be real honest. All these things, I was on the selection committee at one time, and everything a player did, I just tried to tabulate it, as you try to make a decision on what this team is going to look like. And it's a really hard decision. I don't envy some of the final choices. But what we have to understand is our depth is gold-laced. It leads us to a lot of things. So the chemistry of our starting unit, the chemistry of our players coming off the bench, that really gives us a position to chase the gold with confidence in Tokyo.
What kind of strategy can you instill from games like this and install with, and especially with kind of the transient nature of the roster at this time of year?
Well, you know, my background was high school and collegiate, and so you're used to having time to prepare things. I got in the pro game, and I was lucky to be around. There was a guy named Bob Bass. Just if you follow the NBA, he's a legendary NBA guy. And I went to him and I said, you know, I got like one day. You know, I took over the team. I have one day. And he said, well, you know what? I'd do all you could in that one day. And that has served me well in the pro game, and it serves me well with this team. We do all that we can. We do all that we can. We don't really make very many excuses. We try to put in things that make sense to gravitate to, and then we rely on the fact that these players know each other, communicate well, and they're very unselfish. You know, if you watch them play, you know, the ball found a very natural home. It didn't matter. You know, there's a lot of people that could have finished, but I thought our ball movement, and that culture has been part of it, and we just want to, you know, get next to that as many times as we can as the team moves its way towards Tokyo.
And you mentioned having the 2 days of practice here ahead of time, and I know that Louisville was involved in a lot of those practices and learning from you guys and had the chance to have a little Q&A session. I mean, is that something that can be valuable for your veteran players too, and for you and Cheryl, you know, who might end up coaching some of these college players someday?
Oh, absolutely. You know, when I watched the exchange, and we've done it about everywhere we have, but it was especially good here, the questions that the players asked and the answers that our players gave, first of all, made me very, very proud to be involved in a game where that exchange goes on. Okay, both ways. I thought, now this is really. I kept saying to myself, I know there's lots of cameras, but I hope somebody would film that and have a chance for other people to see that, because our players on display, talking with the Louisville players and a lot of other places we went. Man, that's what people out in the world should get a chance to see. The maturity, the understanding, the mentoring. There's something healthy when you have two groups going at it like that. And I ended up being a pro coach. I wanted to be a college coach. And I after this tour, I remember why I wanted to be a college coach, because there's just an awful lot of healthy situations with young people growing up to be great players and great students, and there's something, and our players get it. They like being involved in that too, and that teaches an old coach, you know, reminds him of why he became a coach.
You talked about the culture here in Louisville, the basketball culture. Narika Kano and Yassine Diop, Yassine from Senegal, Narika from Japan, obviously, both on record saying they wanted to come here to play with the best, against the best, for opportunities like this. Where is your general assessment of the culture internationally, just on average?
I think you raise a good point. I think they look to either the WNBA or to college, women's college, as a way to go against the best, you know, and I think that's, you know, I've drafted a lot of international players, and I have kind of watched their maturation. These are knowledgeable people nowadays. You know, they kind of get why coming to Louisville might make great sense for them, what they want to do down the road, you know. And that's not just in the domestic United States, that's outside it. And I think they get coached well. I think they play with players that are going to be professionals at some point. There's just lots of reasons why they choose schools like Louisville. And the world's getting smaller, in my opinion. People all around the world are pretty aware of where those pockets are at, and they seek them.
Coach, just talk a little bit about what Jeff Walls has meant to USA basketball.
Well, you know what's really interesting? I had a chance to be with Coach last night, and I told him, like, I remember the first time I met him. You know, and there's something about him. You know, you don't always remember the first time you meet people. But he was an assistant at Maryland, and I had gone to Maryland to spend a few days with him. And I walked into his office, and You know, you don't meet him and don't come away with wanting to look a little deeper. And I remember that very, very clearly, that moment. I was telling him. And then just watching, I'm an awful lot about culture. And we were around their practice players. They were amazing. They did a lot of little things that I don't see practice players do, just helpful things. I was around their team. And I just went to him, and I was around the community, but what he's doing is so good that it's permeating Louisville. Well, you know what? Boy, you better bottle that. That's what we all try to do, is feel like people that come to the games feel a part of it because they want to be a part of that culture. It's more than just basketball. And that seems to be happening here and other places we've been. And man, when you take sports and you take it to something grander, beside the ball in the basket, that's a message to think about.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank y'all.
Thank you.